Just want you by my side. We've been tossing, turning, staying up all night long. Just want you by my side. We've been tossing, turning, staying up all night long. Just want you by my side. We've been tossing, turning, staying up all night long. Tell me, baby, what's the problem? 'Cause I could try to figure it out. Oh no, oh no. Tell me, baby, what's the problem? I'm only picking up what you're putting down. You'll be tripping, I don't know what about. So what's the problem right now? Okay. I've been tossing, turning.
Chapter 6000. Why did no one tell him? Jiraiya opened his eyes and turned his head, squinting at the bombshell through the gloom of their shared room. Briefly, he took a moment to both lament and appreciate the view. She was wearing a very baggy blue shirt that teased and hinted and highlighted without giving anything away, and a pair of equally baggy pale gray sleeping trousers that did everything in their considerable power to hide those killer legs from view. He rubbed at an eye as he observed the girl. She was still sharing with Naruto. The blonde boy curled up against her side with an unusually content smile on his face. What do you mean? He finally asked. Her face was serious and a little sad, meaning that she wasn't going to just let this sit in silence. She was going to pester him until she got answers, and the longer he took to respond, the angrier she would get. Why did no one tell him who his parents were? She asked. No one knew, he grunted. A scowl crawled across her face. Do not lie to me, she hissed, actually taking Jiraiya aback with the venom in her tone. I could understand not being present. Any parent would protect their child with their life. Jiraiya choked, his eyes widening as he bolted upright, staring at the girl in shock. That was a SS-ranked secret? How did she, Kuwabai? Naruto did say offhandedly that the Baijuyo had taken a shine to her while they were in the seal. But what I don't understand is where you were, she finished slowly, sitting up to glare at him. He wasn't my response, bullshit. You were his godfather, she snapped in an undertone so as not to awaken Naruto, who shifted unhappily against her, a frown beginning to crease his formerly content features. Jiraiya, meanwhile, was getting angry and more than a little afraid. It is none of your business, young miss. How was she getting this information? Kuwabai couldn't possibly know. Mito-san's sealing techniques were superior to Minato's in almost every way. She had been the one to write the seals for Kushina and transfer the Kuwabai into her. But it is my business, Jiraiya, she told him coldly. Minato and Kushina asked me to take care of their son. Jiraiya's world stopped for a moment. What? He breathed. She pursed her lips for a moment. Let's talk outside. She looked down at the still sleeping Naruto and the sun and realized that they were talking about highly classified information in front of the last person that should know about it. He nodded and got to his feet, offering a hand to help the girl up out of reflex. She took it as well, which surprised him even more. In silence, the two of them made their way out of the room and down into the canteen where they would talk uninterrupted. It was dark and no one was in there. The sounds of revelers outside, laughing and gossiping and drinking as they made their way to and from steak houses and food stands. Harry jumped up onto one of the tables to sit and ran a hand through her loose hair, the lights from the street illuminating her face and body. Jiraiya blinked and then frowned at her. He stepped forward and grasped her chin. Your eyes are green now, he pointed out. He didn't mention how the shape had narrowed, becoming more almond-like, how her jawline had slimmed a little and her nose straightened. He didn't mention how she looked like Minato, but with Kushina's eyes. Harry leaned back a little and the toad sage let her. I'm not surprised, she admitted. In my past life I had green eyes. Everyone kept telling me that I looked just like my father, but I had my mother's eyes. Jiraiya refrained from pointing out that she would likely face that in this one as well if they didn't find a way to get rid of her. She knew things she shouldn't. She interfered with Naruto's training. She questioned his methods, not to mention that just getting her into the village would be some circus. Now, he began, sitting down on the table opposite her. You said Minato and Kushina told you to look after the Gaki. How? He demanded with a threatening scowl. He may be a gentleman, but that would not stop him from spanking the girl if she didn't tell him what he wanted to know. She scowled at him, arms folding defensively, and Jiraiya came to the conclusion that the two of them would probably never really get along. She was too soft. The seal, she explained. It has several fail-safes, just in case. But it also contains chakra ghosts, I guess you could call them, of Minato and Kushina themselves. They've been sat in there, watching everything from day one in Naruto's life, she explained, and the Sunin was torn between horror and pride and incredible sadness. Minato was a genius to be able to do such a thing, or was it a gift from the Shinigami? Naruto and I went into the seal to talk to Kyuubi about what happened the night he was sealed. I needed to know if I was going to come up with a good cover story that your government would buy. She chuckles here and rubbed the back of her neck, making Jiraiya almost flinch with Minato like that gesture was when he was embarrassed. It was almost painful. He agreed, but only if we played for a while beforehand. Cue half an hour of trying to catch and kill the wizard. Thankfully Naruto was out cold, it being the first time he forced himself into his mind, and brought someone else with him. It took a lot out of him. He needed to recover. By the time he came to, I'd finished getting the whole story out of Kyuubi. Jiraiya was shaking his head. I don't believe it. You actually got that brainless pile of rage to talk to you, he asked in a mixture of admiration and concern. If the Kyuubi liked her, then there must be something hell of a lot more sinister about her. The monstrous scowl that suddenly crossed onto her face spoke for itself. My God, she sneered. No wonder he hates you people, you're all completely retarded. I take exception to that, Jiraiya growled unhappily. He is not brainless, and if he's angry then he has a damn good reason to be. You don't even know his fucking name, you gormless womanizer, she snarled before waving a hand. He is perfectly reasonable and very intelligent if you take the time to actually find out. God, what the hell happened to manners in this place? She trailed off into surly grumblings and curse words while Jiraiya tried to wrap his brain around this latest development. She actually got the Kyuubi to talk. Kyuubi wasn't even his real name. He was smart and could actually be reasoned with. But why should we be reasonable? He killed Minato and Kushina. She gave him a scathing look. They jumped in the way. He tried to kill what he saw as a prison. You try being locked up for 60 years doing fuck all but having selfish brats stealing your chakra for a crime you weren't even responsible for, she bit out, once again taking Jiraiya aback with her thought pattern. Her ability to step into the mindset of someone else was actually quite surprising. Being able to see a problem from all angles was quite the skill. It's not like he destroyed your village and killed countless people. He aimed just for the one so he could escape and go live his life. True, I get angry at the thought of Naruto being killed for simply being a threat, but it didn't happen, so I have no reason to be upset or angry. She was distracting him, however accidental it may have been. We'll talk about, clearly she got bent out of shape about no one knowing Kyuubi's name. What is his name? But she shook her head. Knowing a demon's name is a sign of extreme trust. Like hell I'm going to give it to you. Harry had introduced himself and asked, politely, what his was. The fact that he wasn't considered human by the demon was probably the only reason why Kurama had seen fit to give his name out. Humans couldn't be trusted in his eyes. Well, Harry wasn't about to betray that fragile trust anytime soon. Jiraiya scowled, fingers itching to get the information out of her. Anything that would give them more power over the Baijuyu was worth more than her weight in pure gold, and he knew that people in Konoha would deem it more important than her life. Because knowing a demon's name would give you power over them, Kyuubi had given his real name to a girl who didn't even know how huge it was. Extreme trust, yeah. Not to turn him into a slave. Minato, Kushina, explain. They got concerned because I can remove the seal if I want to. Every muscle in Jiraiya's body went tense, plans already formulating in his mind to snap her neck the minute Naruto was else. He could do it now. Dark eyes traced her throat. It was elegant and thin. It wouldn't take much pressure from him to snap her spine and crush her windpipe. But breaking the seal would mean killing Naruto, and that ain't gonna happen. He stowed the plans in the back of his mind. He didn't like killing girls, but she wasn't a threat right now, so he would just keep them in the back of his mind, just in case. Minato saw to me while Kushina went to Naruto, who had just woken up. We spoke. I gave them both some of my chakra so they could stick around longer. I'll head back in there at a later point, see what I can do about improving the place. making it easier to access Kushina and Minato's chakra ghosts. Help Naruto organize his thoughts. I don't know what happened to him, but it looks like some kind of mind walker went in there and shredded half his associative memories. Jiraiya frowned. Associative memories, he asked. That sounded like a Yamanaka's doing, shredding specific memories. Yup. You know how you associate certain smells with memories, it's the same with words and pictures. I say the shot aim and you immediately think of all the things that he's done in his life, who he is and that. Someone went in there and shredded the mental connections. It wasn't Kyuubi, he doesn't have access and the damage is old. As in, he would have been between 5 and 10 when it happened. Jiraiya's mind took off at light speed. He knew Naruto had, at one point, been considered good enough to graduate early, but when it hadn't happened he assumed Hiruzen-sensei had held him back for political reasons. When he checked the boy's records and saw that he'd failed 3 times before passing, he just assumed he was arrogant. And thought he was better than he was. But, maybe he had actually been that good. But then this happened and because his brain couldn't make the connections, everything he did came out, well messed up because it was making the wrong connections. What does the damage look like? Messy, he asked warily. There was a Yamanaka in Naruto's class, perhaps jealousy prompted her to do a little creative remodeling in her fellow blonde's brain. Everyone knew that the lassie had it bad for the resident rookie of the year. Was it a case of no one can be better than the Uchiha? Harry shook her head. No, neat. It focuses only on academics, fighting and chakra control. It also seems to have tried to isolate any logic centers it could find. Someone has really tried to dumb him down. I hadn't realized it at the time but Kushina gave me a few of her memories and it just kind of clicked in my head what I had seen. Jiraiya groaned. We can't wait for you to sort it all out though. I got a lead on Tsunade yesterday and we need to move now or we'll miss her. Chances are we will anyway but people remember better the less time they have to forget, especially the drunkards she keeps company with. The two sighed in tandem and sat in silence for a while, trying to figure out what to do. Harry suddenly sat up and kicked him, gently, in the leg. If you're willing to carry me tomorrow, I can do it tonight. I'll get Kushina to help. Minato won't be much use when it comes to the mind arts but Kushina should be used to organizing her thoughts like this. We'll work on getting everything fixed up and cleaned up tonight but I will be out of it tomorrow. I'll have to feed her chakra so she doesn't fade. Jiraiya could have kissed her. In fact, he did. Bounding off the table he wrapped his arms around her shoulders and planted one on those lovely lips before she could react. Oh, soft, and pain? The Sunin squawked as his face impacted with the ceiling from the force of her kick. Harry, meanwhile, shot out of the room, face on fire, to try and find some toothpaste and mouthwash, and possibly to obliviate himself of that memory. 000 Enervat. Kushina's eyes snapped open in surprise as that clean pure chakra flooded her system again. Green eyes swiveled over to land on, oh my, you, the former Jinhyuriki began, only to have her voice die on her lips as she stared at what should have been the spitting image of Naruto's Warak no Jutsu, only to see Minato's face looking at her with her own green eyes. She brushed it away. Is something wrong, Tabane? She asked, pushing herself to her feet. When Naruto slept, usually both she and Minato did as well so they didn't waste more chakra than needed. Depends on your definition of wrong. Come with me, the blonde girl told her, gesturing as she turned and led the way into Kyuubi's seal. I don't know any shortcuts so we're going to have to visit Chuckles first. Why do you call him Chuckles? The redhead asked in a mixture of hilarity and curiosity. Knowing a demon's true name gives you great power over them. Now that I know someone messed with Naruto's mind, I'm not taking the risk they could. Over here, the wizard told her firmly as the world around them descended into the thick muzzy underground gloom that was prevalent throughout Kyuubi's seal. Besides, she really doubted Jiraiya knew anything about demons if he went around thinking they were mindless piles of power and rage, and there was no way she was going to enlighten him on what power a demon's true name actually held. She didn't trust him not to do something stupid. The fox demon merely cracked open an eye, glancing first at the blonde girl and then at her before snorting grumpily and closing them again, pretending they weren't even there as they moved through. Why didn't he? Kushina trailed off uncertainly. Oddly enough, feeling a little hurt at the scornful dismissal. Have a go at you. Yeah, you're dead. What good would it do him? the blonde girl pointed out as she moved down one of the corridors in her son's mind. I suppose, to Bane, she admitted thoughtfully. So, why are we here? She asked, looking around at the multitude of closed doors around her. It looked a little like a prison, though why it was hidden in the sewers she didn't have the foggiest. This is Naruto's mindscape. I suppose the sewers must be where he feels safest if this is how it manifested. But either way, someone's gone out of their way to shred half of his brain. We need to fix it. They've disconnected all of his associative memories from the academy, tried to isolate his logic centers and completely shut down his self-control, the wizard explained as he opened one of the doors to reveal the absolute bombshell of a classroom in front of them. I'm not 100% on everything he knows, I need your help. You know more about mind-walking than Minato, so. Kushina was however already rolling up her sleeves and shot the other girl a grin that was pure Naruto. Let's get to work, shall we? She asked brightly. Harry laughed. Let's, he agreed, rubbing the itch away from his fingers. 000. Naruto groaned unhappily as he went about his usual morning rituals. It felt like someone had scrambled his brains around inside his skull and they were still at it. Nichin was still sleeping and nothing he did would wake her. Jiraiya eventually told him to just leave her be, and if she hadn't woken up by the time they were going to leave then he would just carry her. This would have been more reassuring if he didn't possess two black eyes, a busted lip and blood crusting his nose, the source of which became apparent when Naruto went for breakfast and saw an imprint of his teacher's face in the plaster of the ceiling. Shaking his head, Naruto finished eating and went back upstairs. Nichin was still sleeping, so Naruto dug out some clothes and summoned a few kage bushin to get her changed. He had seen everything but he didn't want Ero Sennin trying to get a peek. They had just finished brushing her hair and tying it up when Ero Sennin came back in and pouted like a 5-year-old caught sneaking cookies to see her fully dressed. And just like that, they were off. Everything packed, money paid, and they left the inn, Naruto carrying his and Nichin's packs while Jiraiya had her on his back. Right, let's go. Jiraiya cheered, pointing towards their next destination with a broad grin, bouncing a little in place and grinning like the pervert he was when he felt those soft, oh so glorious, globes of beauty squish against his back. You're pretty energetic, yelling let's go like a kid, Naruto pointed out with a squinted frown of distaste. Jiraiya frowned and glanced over his shoulder. Huh? That was insulting, he grumbled. But, I'm still in the middle of training. I don't think this is the kind of stuff I can do while on the move, Ero Sennin, the blonde genin pointed out with a huff. There are 3 stages in the training, right? You've only told me about the first 2, so it's still nowhere near finished and I'm going to need to do chakra control exercises if I'm going to get it right. I'm not good at multitasking, so I won't be able to do it until we stop. Jiraiya refrained from grinning. It looked like Harry-chan was pulling through already. That was the most well-thought-out argument he had ever heard of from the midget genin yet. It's not so bad. You can do the 3rd stage while we walk, he told the blonde, who folded his arms and scowled, muttering under his breath about how he had just told him that he couldn't multitask good enough to do that, and why would no one listen to him when he told them these things? Jiraiya refrained from mussing his hair up. He didn't want to shake the girls up while they were doing important things. He dug into his pocket and withdrew a rubber, blew up the balloon. He tossed it at the blonde with a mischievous grin. Here you go. Naruto held it thoughtfully, frowning as he squished it a little between his palms. Normal, huh? He muttered before looking up at the older man. Control, right? He asked with a squinting frown. Jiraiya's grin widened. Bingo? The first stage was spinning, the second stage was power, so clearly this stage is contro. If you've got it under control, then you can direct all of its force and lose none of the power that a loose attack would. Watch, he commanded and demonstrated on a nearby tree. Using only the first 2 stages, he ground a spiral, an inch deep, through the wood of the nearby tree. But when he controlled it, compressed it into a spherical shape and directed all of its force outward, the effect was as obvious as the 2-foot wide hole in the side of the aforementioned tree. Naruto blinked, staring wide-eyed at it for a moment before his gaze narrowed and he looked down at the balloon in his hand, uncharacteristically serious. This is a whole different ball game, he murmured. That's for sure. This is a super A-ranked jutsu that took me quite some time to master. The fact you've gotten this far in such a short amount of time is nothing short of incredible, the white-haired ninja pointed out, remembering how Naruto always seemed to respond better to positive encouragement. Negative encouragement at the wrong time, when he was feeling low, would be detrimental. Unexpectedly though, the blonde flushed. That's only because Nichin helped me, he admitted, making Jiraiya pause. The girl actually helped him? I told her about it and she said that if I was finding it so difficult maybe I should look at improving my chakra control since it helps you use jutsus because it sounded difficult with all the layers. Jiraiya was a little stunned. Layers? She had heard an explanation of the jutsu and pieced together that it worked on a layering system just from that and that control would be the key part of it. Well, she's a very smart girl, your Nichin is. He had to give her that. Soft though she was smart. Smart enough to tame the Kyuubi, get Naruto back on track, figure out an A-ranked jutsu and ensure that neither Kushina nor Minato faded away completely. They were going to be having a very long chat when she woke up. But for now, let's go, we're burning daylight and there's no guarantee Tsunade will stick around in one place. Okay, but if you drop Nichin, I'll raise on your dirty books, Naruto threatened. Jiraiya scoffed, as if he would drop her when he had her breasts pressed against the back of his neck like some glorious cushion of snuggliness. What kind of man did Naruto take him for? 000, you alright back there, Haim? Jiraiya asked as he felt the girl on his back stir. She had been out for the whole journey, even for the majority of the argument in the pub between Tsunade and Naruto. Shizun looked up as she heard the large man speak and found herself, not for the first time, wondering about the blonde girl he was carrying. Green eyes squinted open before they registered what was happening in front of her. Naruto, the girl exclaimed, already moving as she used. Jiraiya as a stepstone to get to him, or she would have had the white-haired man not grabbed her arm and spun her into his chest where she bumped her nose rather hard judging by the grunt of pain. Jiraiya, damn it, if you don't let go of me right now I'll make you the first man to reach the moon without the use of a rocket. Shizun's eyes widened at the threat, and the fact that Jiraiya just laughed, tightening his grip around her and shifting to hook one leg behind her knee, knocking her off balance so she would cling to him out of reflex. The girl growled and the sound of the ground being drilled away by a rather familiar jutsu Shizun never expected to see again split the 8. The Raiznon. In the hands of a 12-year-old. Jiraiya grunted as the girl snarled and headbutted him. Let me go, she howled, bare hand wriggling free and grabbing the ninja's face, Petrificus totalis, she commanded and Shizun's eyes widened as the girl's face flickered for a split second. Jiraiya grunted as his arm snapped to his side and his whole body went rigid, falling backwards away from the girl who didn't even give him a backwards glance as she shot off to Naruto. Tsunade's eyes widened as the blonde-haired girl dropped down to her knees and hauled the smaller boy out of his own crater. What the hell is going on here? The girl demanded, scowling. I leave you guys for a day to deal with your seal and you're using an incomplete jutsu on someone? Naruto, I know they taught you better in the academy. It was like looking through a window 30 years into the past. Big sister scolding over enthusiastic should have known better little brother for being foolhardy and getting in over his head. Her heart seized up in her chest painfully. Jiraiya, was it you who's teaching him the Raiznon? The blonde Sunin demanded, turning around. The pain in her chest bubbling up like a vicious red monster that turned her tongue to razors and tasted like ash on her lips. When she saw the old pervert paralyzed on the floor, rigid and unable to move with Shizun fluttering around him in horrified concern, unable to do anything, she laughed long, loud, and hard. What a loser! Not only are you teaching him a jutsu that only you and the yondaime are even capable of, but leading him on and thinking that you care enough to actually take him on as a student? It's better if he doesn't think that way. Maybe he won't be so retarded to spout off such disgusting dreams like becoming Hokage. How the mighty have fallen. You must be getting senile to take this wretched waste of space. Slapped. Tsunade's words died on her lips as the force of the open palm slap threw her head to the side, her cheek stinging and red. That's enough. Brown eyes lifted and stared into the icy green of the girl in front of her, and Tsunade's stomach gave an uncomfortable flip when she realized she was looking into the yondaime's face, with her grandmother's eyes, or rather, with Kushina's eyes, glaring back at her. Then it registered. This little scrap of nothing had slapped her. Naruto stared at his Nichin in open-mouthed shock as she squared up to the monstrously strong old lady. She even landed a hit on the sour old bitch. This just proved she was awesome. You have more than made your opinion clear, madam. Harry continued as if he hadn't just smacked the drunk woman while she had been too busy gassing on about how Jiraiya and Naruto were pathetic failures who needed a wake-up call. If you have nothing helpful, nor pleasant, to share with us, then I advise you to keep your nasty little mouth shut, she requested before turning and hauling Naruto out of the ground by the scruff of his neck. My brother will take your challenge, she declared, looking at the blonde Sunin from over her shoulder. Naruto nodded, scowling at the old woman. Damn straight. All I need is 3 days and I can master that technique. Just you watch, you sour old hag. Language, Naruto, Harry I reflexively admonished. Tsunade swallowed her tongue and sneered at the pair. Ha, some words, kiddies. But once given, a man's word should never be taken back, she taunted. Naruto grinned. It was all teeth and not in the least bit reassuring. It was all Harry could do to smirk at the old woman's face. I won't go back on my word, that's my nindo, Naruto swore, blue eyes blazing with the challenge to come. He wasn't going to let this old woman say what he could and couldn't do, he hadn't before and he wouldn't now. And you missy, the Sunin prompted, looking at the mouthy spitstreak with boobs bigger than brains. Harry's smile was knife-sharp. What about me? I support my brother come heaven or hell. Well, then, Tsunade mused, her smirk widening. I'll give you 1 week. Then, if you can master that jutsu, I will acknowledge that you could become the Hokage. I'll give you this necklace. She pointed to a green gem that hung around her neck, drawing attention to it. Harry frowned, he could feel magic swirling through it. Tsunade-sama? That's your precious dish. I don't want that kind of ugly necklace. I suppose I could give it to Nichan or Sakura-chan, Naruto admitted with a scrunched-up frown. Don't say that, Naruto, Jiraiya scolded as he sat up, shaking his head, the red rimming his eyes fading away as he looked up. He moved stiffly and a little uncomfortably. He would have to bear in mind that Harry I knew how to use senjutsu in ways that even the toads couldn't manage. That is a very unique and precious ore that belonged to the Shodaime. If you sold it you could buy 3 mountains, or at minimum 8 lifetimes of ramen. Naruto hummed, well, alright then. Tsunade chuckled, but if you can't master the jutsu, then you lose. And I take all your money, Gaki. And your sister will owe me a fight. Less of a fight really, more of a hospitalization, because there was no way she was going to let that slap go unpunished. Ah, Gama-chan. Naruto yelped, spotting his frog-shaped purse in the woman's hand, stuffed full of ryo. Harry's eyes narrowed. Come on Naruto, she told him as the blonde woman began to move away, her attendant scurrying over to try and dissuade her from the bet. We've got a lot of training to do and not a lot of time to do it in, she declared as they brushed past Jiraiya, who watched them briefly. He was a little leery of allowing the girl to interfere with Naruto's training, but she had already proved helpful in teaching the Raiznan before, perhaps she will this time. Tsunade, shall we have a drink together? It's been a while, he suggested, making his way over to her and taking the opportunity to get a judicious glance at her scandalously open yukata shirt. Not as perky as Harry I-chan's but definitely bigger.